Story Spectacular.
Today's show is a special holiday rebroadcasting of magical Merry Toyland. If you enjoy this miraculous and miniature story, be sure to subscribe, rate, and review Story Spectacular on Apple Podcasts.
Who wants a story?
Oh yeah.
Let's go!
Welcome to Story Spectacular, the playful story show you can take on the go. Listen along in a dollhouse, while you're riding on a toy train, or even while you're marching along with toy soldiers. I'm your host, Angie. Today we will revisit a holiday favorite. We will hear the enchanting story of a little boy and little girl who magically shrink down and become very small. They are so small, in fact, that they are the same size as their toys. Find out what sorts of fun ways you can play with your toys when you are a tiny size. Let's begin our toy tale now. Magical Merry Toyland. Once upon a time, there was a little girl and a little boy who lived in a little cottage. Each day, the girl and boy would play with their toys. There were little dolls that lived in a dollhouse with tiny doll furniture. There was also a train set with a little choo-choo that would race around the train tracks. There were also toy soldiers to play with. The children would carefully line up their toy soldiers all in a row. The sturdy soldiers stood at attention, ready to march. Day after day, the children would play. Then, one night, after a fun day of playing with the toys, the little girl and little boy were tucked into their beds. They fell asleep and dreamed sweet dreams as sparkling snow lightly fell onto the cottage. This was no ordinary snow. This was nighttime snow, and it was mixed with stardust. When this kind of special snow falls in the night, then whatever you dream will come true. The next magical morning, the little girl and little boy woke up and looked around. Instead of waking up in their normal beds, they woke up somewhere else. The little girl looked around the room. The walls and furniture looked kind of familiar. Then she laughed with glee. The little boy and girl were inside the dollhouse. They had shrunk down and now were the same size as their toys. The two children held hands and walked down the dollhouse stairs into the kitchen. The little girl sat next to her favorite doll at the table, and the little boy served them some tea from a tiny tea set. Then they heard a noise coming from outside the dollhouse. The children ran outside the dollhouse to see their shiny toy train parked outside.
All aboard!
The little boy hopped into the front seat of the engine, and the little girl found a comfortable seat way back in the caboose. Then the little toy train started to move.
Chugga, 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 choo, choo.
The little toy train chugged along the track. It rode over a train trestle and then drove through a dark tunnel. The little girl and boy rode around and around and around, laughing all the way. The little toy train slowed down and came to a halt. The two children climbed down from the train to see a dozen toy soldiers all lined up in a row. They stood tall and perfectly still. Then one toy soldier started to tap on its drum. Then another one blew into its horn. One by one, the toy soldiers marched around the room and played a delightful toy song.
Toyland, Toyland, wonderful girl and boy land. While you dwell within it, you're ever happy there. Childhood Toyland, magic and merry Toyland. Wouldn't it be fun if we could stay here forevermore? Toyland, Toyland, wonderful girl and boy land. While you dwell within it, you're ever happy there. Childhood Toyland, magic and merry Toyland. Once you pass its limits, you'll want to return once more.
We will be back to the show in just a moment, but first, I have a message for the parents out there. Are you looking for even more nourishing content to share with your kids? Well, great news! I have 5 original picture books available at StorySpectacular.com and on Amazon. My titles include Lawrence the Lighthouse, The Shape Escape, Digger's Daily Routine, An Extraordinary Book, and What Do You See? I also have the official Story Spectacular coloring and activity book available as well, the perfect companion to the podcast. Purchasing these indie books is a great way to support the show and get something spectacular in return. And if you don't want to spend any money, no worries. I have free resources for parents and kids at StorySpectacular.com. Here you can download printable activity pages and watch illustrated videos of my books. Thank you so much for your support, and now back to the story. The little girl and boy held hands and spun around in a circle until they fell to the floor with laughter. The little boy yawned, and the little girl rubbed her tired eyes. They walked back over to the dollhouse and took a nap in the little doll beds. When they woke up, the little girl and boy were back in their normal beds and back to their normal sizes. The two children looked at one another and smiled as more sparkling snow fell outside onto the little cottage. Wow, that was such a fun story. If you love to listen to this show, then you can take it on the go. You can download full episodes of Story Spectacular onto your device and listen to your favorite stories offline, anytime, anywhere. Spectacular. And speaking of spectacular, we just received a very special message. It's time for Animail, where we read listener mail from our animal friends. Animail! Today's mail comes from Paula the polar bear. Paula writes, Dear Angie and friends, my name is Paula and I'm a polar bear. I live way up in the Arctic. I love listening to the show with my 2 little bear cubs. We just heard the episode Chili the Snowman. The cubs and I just love to play in the snow. First, we wake up and climb out of our underground snow fort. Us polar bears have such thick furry coats that we don't even need to wear a snowsuit. We like to ice skate on icebergs and slide down steep snowy drifts. Today I gave the cubs some snow cones for a treat, and then together we dance the snowy shuffle. Us polar bears just love snow days. Anyway, the cubs say hi and thank you again for the spectacular stories. Snowy greetings to you and yours from Paula the polar bear. Thanks for the listener mail, Paula. I'm so glad you and the cubs had fun dancing the snowy shuffle together. Looking forward to reading more animail from our animal listeners soon. Today's show was snow magical. We heard about 2 little children who shrunk down to the same size as their toys. I just loved getting to play along with the little children in Toyland. We also read some animail from our listener friend Paula the polar bear. The world is full of magical surprises.
Story Spectacular.
Story Spectacular is written and hosted by Angela Ferrari. To learn more about the show and to purchase my original children's books, go to StorySpectacular.com. If you and your child enjoy listening to these spectacular stories, then please take a moment to leave Story Spectacular a rating and review on your podcast app. It means so much, and it's a great way to support the show. You can also tell a friend about Story Spectacular and share your favorite story on social media. This way, even more little listeners can tune in to spectacular stories too. Thanks for listening.
Come back to Toyland soon.